All right, everybody. Good evening. This is the start of our April 2017 Southern Fried DNN User Group meeting. Thanks to everybody who's joining us here in person. We've got our usual crew of folks hanging out here tonight in the Envisionative offices up in Mooresville, North Carolina. So we're here with David Poindexter and his location. And we're looking forward to a good evening here of learning and catching up with some of our good friends both here and online. Online we've got a pretty good full house. We've got our guests, of course, but then we see the likes of Will Morganwick and Addison and Algeria and Mark Buselig is in. So we've got a pretty good full house. Let's jump into a couple of different announcements and things as we start off today's meeting. David, today officially we have a new sponsor participating, or not yet officially?
Yeah, we do officially.
All right. Can you tell me just a touch about it, and we'll come back to it at the end as well?
Absolutely. I want to thank Get Kraken, which is actually owned by Exosoft. They are a Git type desktop application for Git, and pretty slick little app there that they've graciously sponsored us, sent us a little bit of swag today. So got a few shirts to give away at the end and some stickers and all that. So yeah, we're excited to have them on board.
All right. So we'll come back again to talk about them towards the end of the meeting. But as always, we are incredibly thankful to our sponsors who help us share our love of DNN with everybody else, and then we share the love back with the community to show off their exciting product and tools. So for tonight's meeting,
we still have JetBrains on board.
We have JetBrains as well, so we'll come back to some giveaways towards the end. But before I get into our guests, let's touch just a couple of different things. Community buzz and announcements. We'll touch base. I don't know if Addison is back on again. If he says
he's on, but it says he's got a frog in his throat or something.
All right, stage fright. Stage fright. He's not in front of the camera that often, so.
That's true.
You might have to prepare. Well, we'll come back around if Addison would like to talk in a few minutes. Community buzz and announcements. I do have one thing that popped up since last month. Security-wise, everybody knows that we've had a few different things in the summer and then in the fall last year. I had a few sites with latent spam bot registrations issues, and it took us a while to figure out what was involved. If anybody else is still having latent spam bot registrations and you've done all of the normal measures, reach out to us. There are a couple of login modules. We were able to root out some problems and get really good help from the makers of those modules. So if you're still having those kinds of problems, reach out to us here at Southern Fried or me and More Creative, and I'll give you some tips and let you see if you're having the same issues we were having. So community announcements, anything else that's worth bringing up here before we jump in?
Well, we got DNN Connect coming up, right?
We do have DNN Connect. I wish we had somebody going out to DNN Connect so that we could have an official presence, but well, how hard is it to get somebody out there all the way from here? David, what do you think about that?
I wish we did too. It'd be nice. I mean, the problem we have with people coming from the U.S. is that they don't know what passports to bring. So,
that's rough.
Self-deprecating.
David Poindexter with Envisionative is heading out, and he's going to make a grand tour of it. So everybody who's following David, please plan to support him and check in on all the things as he posts pictures and tweets and posts all the way along.
Send money and I'll send you special pictures.
Send money and you'll pick up specific European tchotchke for us?
That's right, yeah.
Okay, all right. I like that.
That'll work. Yes, I do have a passport book in hand, so
good.
I can prove it to everybody here a little bit.
All right.
How many times is Joe going to go?
He's coming in full force.
Offline, web. All right. Well, folks, we're going to jump into our presenters and our interview sessions. We have two primary sessions that we're running today. To begin with, we're going to have Eleanor Tessero. I apologize if I've mangled that. Tessero. You'll have to, who's going to talk with us about the DNN Documentation Center. The interest here is that on a previous meeting I saw the new updated DNN Documentation Center, and I realized I hadn't been there in about a year. It looked like I'm not the only one who's in that. To come back to talking about the new offering prompt for DNN, and we're going to talk specifically here about how to write extensions for prompt and extend it to do some custom things. So with that said, let's begin a couple of things. And one thing we're going to try and do this time is bring up this screen share, bring up Eleanor. All right. And then, if it's all right with everybody, hands down there, Clint. All right. No, we won't screenshot the video. What do you know? I had no idea.
Oh.
Well, what we were going to try and do, Eleanor, because the video isn't always recorded in the sessions. Your screen is, but the video isn't. So we were going to try to put the video in there, but we'll have to come back to it another time. Okay, so Eleanor, what I normally do is begin by doing a little bit of introduction so we can learn more about you and your experience. So to begin with, let us all know what your position is and your responsibilities in DNN Corp.
I'm at DNN, I'm the knowledge manager. That's actually encompasses, I started out as technical writer, but I actually do a whole lot more than just writing. I do the builds. So I'm basically responsible for the entire doc center. And it's going to be a whole lot more than just documentation. We're going to have videos in there, tutorials in there. And so the title knowledge manager encompasses the whole thing. So basically what I do, a lot of the things that I do right now is technical writing. I'm filling in a lot of the details and a lot of the basic information that we need, and then we just build on that eventually.
Yeah, that makes sense. You start small and you build up and make it more and more robust as you go. That sounds like a good plan. How about your time before DNN? What do you have as maybe some first experiences where you were first introduced to other CMSs, or perhaps your first time getting connected with DNN?
I actually found out about DNN only about a year and a half ago when I was applying for positions, for technical writing positions. So I really didn't have any experience with DNN, and I didn't have any experience with CMS either. I think that the closest experience that I have was when I was at Microsoft working for the .NET framework, actually documenting their APIs there. And then, but that was years ago, at least a decade ago, about when DNN started. So I'm really very rusty about that, and I'm kind of starting to catch up with the new technologies again and all that.
All right, all right. And then what paint us a picture of your daily work, or maybe your work in a week, as you've let us know that you're focusing on the documentation center, but are you starting everything off from scratch? Are there whole sections that you know are empty that you're wanting to fill out? What's a week look like for you?
It depends, actually. Sometimes if I'm working on something that I can just that has nothing on it, I mean, there's no documentation on it, and I depend what's in the UI, what's in the product. I depend on our PMs to tell me about what's going on. I would usually bug them first and get the information that I need, explore the product and see what's there, and then I do my writing in batches. I have a way now that I've automated certain things so that I don't have to do it one by one. So I just do it actually what I have is I do it in JSON, and it would automatically plug the information into Data, which is built to turn it into HTML. And then the HTML is the one that's published. So so I would do all the screenshots, and I would do all the writing and all at the same time. Then I do the builds, and then I debug it, of course, because sometimes I make mistakes and all that. So
Yeah.
so I do basically from end to end, from writing, screenshots, builds, and then testing, then publishing.
Do you find that because of your experience and coming at DNN with a fresh eye, not having used DNN for years and years, do you find that it's easier for you to write documentation and introduction help because you're coming at it with a fresh eye as well?
Not always. There are places where I would wish that I knew what was going on, where I didn't know why certain things were done a certain way. Like I didn't have that much experience with web development either. Most of the things that I covered in the .NET framework were just the basic stuff, collections, globalization, like that. Nothing with ASP.NET. So this part also is new to me. So I'm kind of learning even the area, the field. Yes.
And then within your, I don't know, team or group, you have people who, come after you and read what you've written and review it with you, and they, I don't know, they've seen it all before, and so they don't pay close enough attention, or you feel like you have to twist people's arms to help run through it with you?
When I started at DNN, I tried to put that process in, which is typical in most software companies. But people, because we are a very small group, the people usually don't have time to go over it. And so it's mostly like if I have a question, just ask the question, and then they just trust that I put it in the right way. If I have doubts about what I wrote, if I'm not sure if I got the meaning right or I got everything down on the document, then I would ask them again, or I'd say, can you review just this little bit? And so they don't have to kind of go through the whole thing again.
I don't know that we all, that any of us has more time than anyone else. We're all busy folks knocking out everything that we can in a day and don't have enough hours, but maybe that too is a spot for you to reach out to the community. There are a lot of us out here that can help answer things, and you can ping ideas off of us.
Good point.
Maybe I'll circle back around to that in a bit.
When I actually started, I was learning from the posts that people have put up there, like posts like the blog posts that Clinton actually wrote were my basis that I used to learn about the product and learn about how to do things, or at least get some idea.
Well, so we're gonna segue in a minute into the system, and I want to have you show us more about it. But two more questions as we get there. There has been old help information in the past, and it's existed from older versions of DNN, and you can still run across a paragraph or two that you read, and it references something that was probably more the way it was at DNN 4 or 5 than it is now at DNN 9. Do you find that there's worthwhile content that you're repurposing that existed before some, or it's always suspect and it's better to write from scratch?
I think it's better to write from scratch, especially now that we've changed the UI in 9.0 and almost entirely, so I've almost had to rewrite almost everything. There are some things that are still useful, like the conceptual things that explain a little bit more about that doesn't have anything to do with the UI. Those are still a little bit useful, but then that might come a little later. Then I have to verify everything again and like ask people, is this still valid? Is this still something that people would want to know? So I'm pushing that towards the back end, and by the time I get to it, it'll probably be out of date anyway.
It'll have moved on to something new, right?
Yes.
Okay, so then last question, and we're going to pass the screen over to you in just a moment. But one of the last times I paid very close attention to the Documentation Center was with some announcements and some direction that it sounded like the Documentation Center was going to move out to be out in the community, and you were going to be able to make pull requests and post content and information and kind of make it open source for the help so that all of us might be able to jump in and participate. And I know that direction changed, and then I didn't pay close attention to it afterwards. So as we start to pass over the screen to you so that you can show us, tell us a little bit about, what is what's the structure of the documentation center now, and how it's officially being both supported and is growing underneath of what you're doing with it now.
Right now, I'm still filling in the information, actually, the basic how-tos and all that. Eventually, I want to add more conceptuals in it, and I want to add more video tutorials in it, so that we focus not just on the text part of it, but also on the hearing, the people who learn better hearing and by seeing. Right now, do I have it now? Right now, oops, sorry. Right now, the document. I forget what I was going to say. The documentation center is more. Well, I don't want to say the word censored, but it's more like we're trying to keep it at a certain level of quality. So because we've gone in with starting this new project so that it's going to be very easy to learn. It's going to be so that even if you're drunk or even if you have a hangover, you can understand it easily because you can just see the pictures. You don't have to kind of analyze what the words are saying. Say that again.
All right.
So
we followed your joke. Yeah.
Okay. So there's so that's the idea. So putting it out to the community right now is not our immediate goal. We're trying to kind of show people that what we're trying to do here is to get it to a certain level of quality in a certain level, a certain style, essentially, a writing style. And we're right now, I'm training actually our tech support people, and we have an area for them where they can put their topics in, and then eventually maybe we might bring in more people to come and help with us and help us add more information in there. But we have to kind of set our standards for now and have the writing style set so that people can kind of just pick it up. They kind of see what we're looking for and they pick it up. Where currently we're also going to try to get it into the product, because right now with 9.1 coming up, we have some features in 9.1 that we need to convert the current documentation center into DNN. So, this build is actually using DITA, which is an XML schema that's a standard in the technical writing industry. So, I do a build every time I have to publish it. But before we can move it over to DNN, we needed a way to import it. So we have features. We don't know yet if we've covered everything because we haven't even tried it yet, but eventually we'll get it into the product. And that would also make it easier for other people to contribute. And we put it into a workflow where there's editing in there and approval and stuff like that, and it just pulls it in.
Well, so show us a little bit about what somebody could expect to find coming into the documentation center with what it has today. Maybe an introduction level person needing to learn, but then also maybe a higher level developer coming in to look up a specific topic.
Okay, right. Okay, this is what the documentation looks like at this moment. This is actually live, and we focused on 5 personas. We kind of profiled them also. We have administrators and hosts all lumped into one persona, the content managers and content editors lumped in another one, community managers and moderators lumped in another one. We also have developers and designers, although we don't ship with specific roles like this in the document, in the product. So we assume that because developers would usually have a local installation, that they can just easily go into the administrator section, for example, and learn more from there. So this is the front page of the documentation center. Sometimes we have announcements there, like this one, which is about the upcoming webinar that we're going to give out. Do online for the release, the upcoming release. We have a what's new already in the front page, sorry. And then the old old archives, that because we've made certain decisions so that we can quickly just put out the new stuff. So whatever you see in the documentation center is the latest build of the product, or enough. So most of the time, I have to admit that the administrator section is the one that's most filled right now because of the 9.0 changes in the UI that affected the administrator areas. Because they got the new persona bar in 9.0. So there's a whole lot of information in here. It's really actually very big. I would recommend people to just kind of browse there and see what they find. It's very close to what the product has, but I'm also trying to make it so that it addresses what your problem is. So it's organized in a way that it's kind of in a step-by-step, not quite probably, but almost in a step-by-step, so that you go through the menu system and you see what you need almost right away. But there's a lot of references in there that I think a lot of people usually miss. And for example, if people are converting from the old versions, which had the control bar, and they're switching to the persona bar, then we have this table in there that tells you if you used to do this on the left side, now you have to do this steps on the right side. Things like that. So yeah. So people don't usually find that, unfortunately, because it's in the references and they think, oh, it's just references, I'm not going to pay attention to it. But so there's a whole lot of stuff in there. And of course, there's stuff that are still missing, and I'm still working on that, but it will eventually be filled in. So for the other ones, the content manager, I don't have very much because, of course, not the host or the administrator, they don't have as much access to everything. They don't have access to everything, for example. So only what applies to them is what you're going to find here. And so we're just going to assume that if they have their local installation, they just go to the administrator section.
As a question,
Sure.
would you say, or would you encourage that with this organization on the left-hand side by topic and by category, kind of organized in the top down, so that there's introduction information at the top and then there's troubleshooting and glossary towards the bottom?
Yes.
Would you encourage people to kind of pick their persona user type and then just begin going through it like reading through an advisement or an instruction manual, just start at the beginning and read through? Do you feel like people will get more out of picking and choosing and searching for specific topic? What do you recommend?
I actually, well, the way that I've organized this is so that you can easily look it up. It's more like a reference, so that when you need it, you know where to go. Okay. So I would just recommend just browse through the menu system and see what's there, so that when you kind of remember that you need something and you just say, oh, I remember seeing this here somewhere. Then you just go through that.
And if you do search for a topic by keywords or information, are you searching within the persona, or does a search return results from everything regardless of persona? It
searches through everything, I think, because we do it up to the docs portion of the site.
All right.
If I remember correctly.
All right. Well, thank you for the interruption. Continue. Thank you.
So then, okay, sorry. But then the other ones are also not very filled in. So for the developer section, there's actually just stuff that are focused for developers, like programming and stuff. And admittedly, there's not very much in here. And you can, but the idea is that that you can go to several places with information if we don't have it here. So we usually point to something else. For example, like the API references, there's a link in there already. So you can just go to the Doc Center. If you don't remember where to go for the API list, you can just go back to the Doc Center and find it there. So there's gonna be more here. Unfortunately, it's not very filled in right now because there's a lot for me to learn before I can even write anything related to this. So we're getting some help from people and from contractors and other, and we're probably going to be getting more help from other people to help us fill in these areas where it will take me a long time to kind of learn how to do it, and at least learn it enough so that I can actually teach it. And that's a little bit difficult because, you know, one person, you can't really learn the whole product and everything that everybody could possibly want to know about it. So I get a lot of help, and we still hope to get a little bit more help.
All right. If there's ways to get help from the community and you want to reach out officially, let us know. We definitely know groups of folks that we can help get the word out and help promote that you're looking for writing assistance, testing and reading and proofing assistance, explanation assistance. I'm sure there are plenty of us who can help out if you say the word.
Thank you.
It's funny you land on the JWT authentication. That's the section that we were going through a couple of meetings ago that pointed out to me that this was different than it had been before.
This was actually, most of this was written by one of our developers, and I just kind of edited it and fit it in.
Developers, those people. So they're going to work hyperlinks to the documentation center into the product, like, you know, various locations.
We're actually thinking about that. So it will be in a future version of the product.
And another question is, she mentioned earlier having more video content. Is that something that is driven from Corp, or is that community people creating that, or is it a combination, or what's the strategy around that?
We don't know yet. At this point, I only have one video there, and I can show it to you. And it was basically just a proof of concept, just to kind of say, okay, we can do this. And it's here, I think, where is it now? It's in building.
A lot of free time you can do some videos.
We might reach out for more help with that too. So you never know, because there's a whole lot that you can do videos for. And I figured that maybe it will probably help bring in some people if we post it on YouTube, maybe, for example, and get people interested and or at least curious enough to ask about DNN. So where did I have it?
Social content, I think that you can do.
Right here, create a content type. Should I play it?
You could try. It may not come over the meeting very well. But no, the idea of having the video in there in and amongst the technical writing is a great benefit. I can see you doing a first pass through a large swath of content and then having people come back afterwards and create videos to point out topics and points and visually get across what sometimes can be tough to type up.
Yes. It also shows people, it gives people a taste of what the product looks like, what the product feels like.
But if you look at Pluralsight, I mean, they're just dominating because it's, you know, short videos, it's real informative. So I follow some of the authors online, and it seems like going through the editing process for them is very thorough. Because they're like, you know, crossing my fingers that my, you know, editor will, you know, publish it or whatever. Things like that. But yeah, I mean, if you look at how they've grown, I think there's something to that in video.
I've seen the opposite with videos though too, in that some systems or specific mods, for instance, they don't have any instructions and any tutorials. They just have video, and that can also be frustrating from the opposite direction sometimes. So yeah, so sometimes having a good mixture is
especially for complex things.
Yeah.
The multiple learning styles.
Yeah. So Eleanor, did you have any other points that you wanted to show us about about what's in place currently for the documentation center?
You mean for future plans, or what's already
Give me the
there?
next question. You know, do you have some future plans or things that you want to share or kind of mention about what's coming up next? Is the second question.
That's basically what we have right now. Is we're moving kind of slow, but I think after we have the foundation in, everything will just go faster. Like even with some of the automation that I had to do, I had to put in place some boilerplates that I build steps on, so that made it faster to write each topic. So once we have that in place, even the videos will be faster. That maybe we'll have some training sessions or something, or training classes, things like that. That just that would come out of what's already been written in the Doc Center.
Excellent, excellent. Clint, did we have any questions online or any things to come back to as we're going through?
Nothing in the
All right. Well, Eleanor, thank you so much for spending this time with us.
Thank you for having me.
Please come back regularly. You want to give us some updates? Come back on, and you can have a 5-minute slot anytime you like it. Clint,
I was just going to ask one question.
Yes, one more question.
Sure.
Is Eleanor on Twitter, and the other thing is, can they tweet out whenever there's like new big sections of documentation that get posted? So imagine like, hey, we got a new video on whatever.
So kind of round that around, if you do put it out on Twitter and you do make announcements when you add big sections or big new features, the community will pick that up and run with it. We will retweet and promote that with you.
Thank you. It's a great idea. Thank you.
Oh, no, fantastic. I'm not sure, but I think that Will Morganwake's video feed paused for just a minute if he was joining, and he disappeared for a minute, and I think he might have popped back up again.
I had to catch it on the replay. She didn't.
It was perfect. Eleanor, thanks so much for spending that time with us. We really appreciate it, and again, offer placed out there. Reach out to us. Reach out to the community. You need a hand. We'll be there.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right. David, if you want to pull the presenter over here, or you could pass directly over to Kelly, either or. You did give it to me, actually. Sorry. All right. So coming up here, we're bringing on Kelly Ford. He's been waiting in the wings patiently, and we are going to hear this kind of second session of prompts for DNN. So if you didn't catch that, you get some pretty exciting stuff. Myself, I wasn't here on that particular meeting, but essentially back at DNN Summit in January, Kelly Ford from DNN Dev popped up and really started showing some folks something very exciting that he's been working. My description for prompt is that it is a command prompt, straight line commands that can be given to DNN instance, and really, really powerful and fast ways to control very large DNN installations with some powerful features. So if you haven't seen that, be sure to check back on the Southern Side DNN website for the meeting. I believe that was February's meeting, so that you can take a look at it. But now we're going to go ahead and pass the screen over to Kelly, because I've got what up?
I've tried to switch everything to
I think he's presenting now. I think he's a new chair. There we go. We had a delay there for a moment.
Got dizzy there. Thanks there, Clint.
Oh.
So, do I have it or not?
We're excited. Yeah, we see it. We see a, I was going to say a PowerPoint, but we see your
Keynote.
Keynote presentation on screen.
Okay. All right.
So, Kelly, what we're going to find out today, I believe, is about extending prompt and making more out of it. If that was a good setup, take it away. If you want to modify, let's hear a little bit.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Ryan. Actually, this is going to be more code. Can you hear me okay? I'm hearing.
Yes, yes.
Okay, good. This is going to be a bit more code heavy than the last time. If you didn't make it last time to the big show, then I will very briefly tell you what it's all about. So let's get started here. So we're going to talk about extending prompt. And really the cool thing I think about Prompt is that with it you can easily make DNN do your bidding, and you can do it without having to deal with all of the user interface cruft that you normally have to deal with because we're talking about a command line. First of all, a little bit about me. This is from last time, so I've been working with DNN since version 1. I now do cloud consulting and developing, mainly AWS, design, of course, and develop DNN sites and apps, host DNN sites, and like I said last time, I'm lazy, and that usually winds up being a good thing for a programmer. So that's a little bit about me. I also am the founder and head know-it-all at KnowBetter.com. You may know that I'm, yeah.
Are you presenting your screen now, or?
Because we see your cam at the moment. We don't have your screen.
We can see the cam, but we don't see the screen.
Okay, so, oh, I see. Dang it. All right.
There we go.
Okay, now you have it and I don't. Where'd it go? Let's try this again.
Yeah, we see your code window.
Okay, that's not what I want to show. Let me stop my presentation real quick. All right.
Here we go. We have your screen.
So you see, what do you see?
4-hour countdown. Current slide 3 of 9. Bills remaining.
Okay, should be the other screen. So let's see here.
Same one.
Need to get over to, that's really annoying. I'm starting to feel like Joe.
Go to monitor 9.
All right.
Hey,
Got a gray square there? Okay.
Yeah, we do.
All right. There we go.
There we go.
Founder, head know-it-all, KnowBetter.com, said that already. I run the DNN Dev website. That's where you find all the information about XMod Pro, which has been an application developer or application builder for DNN, has been around selling since 2004. And now I have just created this open source Prompt. So for those who missed the session in what, February? I think it was. This is it. You see it right here. A persona bar extension that is a command line. It's fast and efficient. Makes it really easy to do DNN administration stuff. As you can see here in this example, we're just pulled up a list of users logged in, whether or not they're authorized, etc. You can pull up a specific author or a specific user. You can do basic CRUD operations like add pages, add modules, delete, remove, that kind of stuff. And you can do searches on users and things like that, all from the command line without having to do a lot of clicking, which really slows you down, especially if you have multiple things you have to do. Or you have to do things over and over again. So most people find that a command line is much easier to deal with than a user interface when it comes to doing things quickly and efficiently. One of the things that I think sets Prompt apart is it has extensive and very friendly help. We can show you some of that in just a bit. It's also extensible, which of course is the purpose for this session. And we'll get into that. It's open source. It's MIT licensed. And I have some big news that we will reveal on the next slide. Are you ready? Is there a drum roll?
All right. Drum roll.
Okay. Prompt is going to be in DNN Core.
Really? Wow.
Hopefully, these timelines can change, but hopefully we're shooting for 9.2 for it to get in there. But we'll see. There are a lot of changes and lines for DNN Core. We've had our first meeting. We got some more that will be coming up, but that is the plan according to Corp. And so plan on it being in DNN going forward. We're really excited about that.
Very, very exciting. That's an exciting roadmap to see how and when that pulls together.
Yeah, that's really fun. Okay, now some key concepts when we're talking about actually extending prompt. First thing is that a command is just simply a class. It's a class that inherits from console command base. It also implements iConsole command, the interface, and it is decorated with the console command attribute. Those are the three primary things that you need to deal with in order to create a command. You'll notice that you don't have to deal with creating an ASCX file. You don't have to have any kind of zip file. There's nothing that you have to take care of in terms of the user interface, which means you can just focus on getting the functionality out there and returning that data to the user base. Wow, that was quick. How about time for a demo? All right, so let me get a different screen. Okay, is that big enough for everybody to see?
I think so. I think that's fairly readable. Thank you.
I can bump up the font size if you need me to.
Yeah, the right column we can, but the left with the code, we're in good shape.
Yeah, no worries there. Okay, cool. All right, so I'm going to show you how to create an extension. If we have time, we'll go through a couple of things. I might run out of time because I haven't actually timed this out. But we're going to start off very simple. There are a number of things that you can do with prompt, and we're going to start at the basics. First of all, in order to create a prompt command, you need to have a library, DLL essentially, and it needs to have exactly one class in it. First thing you have to do, though, is you need to add two references, one to the .NET DLL and the other one to the prompt DLL. Once you've done that, you'll have access to the models and the base classes and interfaces, etc., that prompt provides for you. And since prompt sends some .NET Nuke stuff to you as part of the process, you'll want to have .NET Nuke reference as well. So what I'm going to do, the first thing you want to do after you've done that is, of course, get rid of this class file. And we'll start to do. We'll add a class. And we will call it get time. This is going to be a very simple way to get the server time. It's not all that sexy, but it allows me to keep everything simple so you can see the basic structure of a command. And so there are, first I'm going to do some, I've got some things I can just copy in so you don't have to watch me type. First of all, let's replace our using statements here, and I'll go through them. These are the using statements you need. You need to include the, since this is going to be part of core, we're going to be referencing DNN.persona and prompt. And from that, we're going to pull in attributes. We're going to pull in the common, and we're going to pull in interfaces, and we're going to pull in models. And you probably are familiar with these last two. We're going to be dealing with users and portal settings, so you want to include those two as part of your usings. Okay, next, we deal with our class. First thing you want to do is make it a public class so it can actually be seen. And then, as I said, we need to inherit from console command base. And we need to implement the iConsole command interface. And for that, where's my little, there we go. Implement that interface. Okay, let me point out some of the things here. First of all, these are the things that are required for you to implement as part of that interface. The console command base is going to provide you with some extra help in order to utility functions and things like that. So that's why you want to inherit from that. First thing is we want to have we're requiring you to have a validation message. And this is actually, we're going to change this to a read-only property. So this is going to be get. So prompt is actually going to be reading this validation message to determine if you, I'll get to it in a second. Basically spit out an error message if something goes wrong. Next up is the init command. This is where everything starts. This is what prompt is going to call before anything happens, and it's going to call it on each instantiation of the command. So you don't want to spend a ton of time in here in initialization, but this is really where you're going to do a good bit of your work, especially your validation work. So you see what gets passed in, the raw arguments that are passed in as part of the command line, the current portal settings, the current user, and then also the tab ID for the active tab, whatever the tab that the user is on. All that can be very useful for you in making decisions as you build out your command. Ryan, I see you yawning. Stop.
I'm trying hard not to. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Just giving you a hard time. Next up is valid. This works obviously in conjunction with validation message. So if the command that someone entered is valid, then you're going to return true here. If it's not, in one way, shape, or form, you're just going to return false. And that way prompt will know, and it'll take care of the rest for you. And then finally, the run function. This is going to return something called a console result model. This is where all the fun happens. This is where you're going to do most of your programming and the implementation of the features. So that is the basic structure of a command. Following along so far? Really complicated. Mm-hmm. Okay. So let's get started on our get time command. There's one thing that we have not put in yet. If you remember from my slide, we actually have to have an attribute. We need to decorate our class with an attribute. And that is called the console command attribute. Now there's several things, several parts here. First one is the actual name of the command that the user is going to type in. Now it's important to keep these in, they're obviously different, but you want to keep them in sync. Essentially, in your code, you're going to do the basic camel case, but you want to follow along with the basic syntax of prompt, which is basically action dash target. So in this case, get dash time, and that's what the person's going to type in order to execute this command. Now, one of the great things that we've done is we've allowed you to, through this extension, we know that multiple people might create libraries that will conflict with each other. They might want to use the same command. So we've added the ability to add a namespace. If there is no get time in the current site, no get time command there, then they can just type in get dash time and they'll be able to execute the command. However, if there are multiple get times, then they can type in kf dot get dash time to execute the specific version. Obviously, you want to make this whatever namespace works for you. Probably, if you want to be nice to your users, keep it as short as possible. For mine, I use KB, but in this case, we'll use KF for Kelly Ford. I also want to set up my namespace here. Usually company dot prompt dot commands. So I'll just use my name here. And there we go. That's your basic structure. Next up, we have a brief description of what the command does. This is going to be listed in various places. There is a command called list commands in which you'll see this brief description show up. So you want to give them something useful, but relatively short too. And then finally, we will get to this later if we have time. This is basically a string array that lists out the options you're going to allow the user to have for your command. It's empty right now because we don't have any options. Okay. With that said, let's do something very basic. To actually make this work, we want to do two things. In our init command, we want to call our base class, the base initialize, and we want to pass in the same information that we had passed to us. What this is going to do is allow the base command to do some really nice things for you. It's going to allow it to parse out the arguments and turn them into flags for you. It's going to give you a lot of nice helper functions. So you want to do this as the first line in your init command. For our basic purposes here, that's all we have to do right now. We want to get rid of these exceptions, though. Right now, I'm just going to return true because it's always going to be valid. There aren't any arguments at all. If this command gets called, then it's going to be valid. The only other stuff we have to do here is in our run command, we have to return an object called a console result model. And that's pretty simple. It can go from simple to, not complex, but more complex than what you're going to see here. All we have to do in this case is just return a string if we want to return text to the user. Now we'll be able to return objects and some other stuff going forward, but for right now we're just going to do this real basic stuff.
All right.
Now I'm actually going to change my namespace to SF for Southern Fried because I did this earlier and that will conflict. So let's go ahead and compile this. Hopefully it will work. Coding live is always dangerous. All right, good. And now there's one more thing that I want to do. Need to go here. And this one. We're going to copy over our DLLs. I normally just have a batch file for this, but oh, I didn't set my, oh, there it is. So there's our DLLs. We're going to copy it over into my test site here, which is right here. Paste it in. There we go. I'm going to switch over to the test site. I might have actually need to log in again. So it's usually good to do this kind of in a step-by-step basis when you're just starting out. So we're just going to try to get a success message displayed to the screen, and then we'll start moving some other stuff. By the way, I've got this as a public repository on GitHub with different steps, so you guys can download this stuff afterwards. Okay.
So, oh, sorry. I was going to ask, you just compiled your updated set that has in it now this get time, this SF get time, and you posted your DNN instance. You had to restart the application pool or restart the DNN instance for it to pick that up because it was DLL based?
Yeah, well, I mean, whenever you're putting anything into the bin, it's going to restart the app. But once that's done, everything's
small. I couldn't tell where you were putting it. I couldn't tell if you were putting it in the bin or if, like with XMod Pro, there was a commands folder or something different.
No, this is just, yeah, we're trying to make this as simple as possible. So the idea is just drop your DLL into the site's bin folder, and on startup, it's going to go through and find all of the commands, and it's going to automatically do it. You don't have to register it. You don't have to fill out any configuration files, none of that. Big shout out to Peter Donker for helping to implement that. So now if I do list commands, we should see we've got 52 commands right now that are available. You'll see there are actually 3 get times here. The first one is the one I demonstrated in February. Can you read it? Can you see it okay?
Yes, yes, and we can see the namespace there so that there's KB, KF, and SF on all 3 of those get. That's perfect.
Okay, so now let's just show, if I do get time without any namespace, it gives me the full date and time. This is actually the KB.1. If
First one in the alphabet?
Yeah. So if now if this was actually built into prompt, there wouldn't be a namespace that would execute that one instead. Now if I do what is SF.getTime, oops, spelled wrong, time, you can see it displays our success message. So we are good to go. Let's get back to our programming because we are having a ton of fun now. Let's beef this up a little bit and actually have it do what it's supposed to do. And that is actually return. Oh, do I not have that available to me? All right, well, we're going to do a lot of things here. Now, let's just change this. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to just have it return the current date and time. So, just real basic. I'm going to compile that, and I'm going to do one thing. Well, I guess I can do it this way. No, I can't do it that way. So if I go back, yeah, I'm going to do a little editing here and place this where I need it to be just to make this faster. Old school using batch files.
You were going to ask a question a second ago too?
I'll wait a little bit.
Go ahead. If you got a question while I'm doing this.
Yeah, I guess while you're doing that, Kelly, is there a way that when you're building out a extension to easily debug, or are you going to go through that at some point? Or
oh yeah, actually, if I went through the process, the thing is that I was working in a repo. I didn't want to put my any scripts as part of the repo. But basically, what I would do is just create a post-build event that would copy it over to whatever site that I need. And then,
I mean, like, is there a way for you to debug your code? Like step through your code, essentially, set a breakpoint and
if there are problems or errors in what's been built.
Oh no, you can do that. Just copy over your PDB file, and then you can set a breakpoint and step through. That works fine. Am I answering your question?
You are answering it, but I don't know what that ultimately means. Because you're not in that file system there, so you've got to attach to the process, right?
Take Visual Studio and attach
right
to the process.
I'm just trying to do the answer to everybody.
Oh, okay. Yes, I'm not actually going to show that, but
for everybody else.
okay. Yeah, standard debugging whenever you debug anything in DNN. Okay, so that should work. Let me copy this up. Of course.
Developing in
because you're not running it in Visual Studio. You can just see that it's broke, but not.
So what does I call that? Just is it April? It's the name of my folder. So far, April. Sorry guys, should have had this done earlier. Okay, yay! All right, so now if I do sf.getTime, it's going to reload because I put something new into the bin folder. And now we have the date and time coming out. So that's working. So that's really all. I mean, if you have a very basic command, you just want to get something or display something, that's all you have to do. If you want to get a little bit more involved, like have an option, then that's what we'll do next. Let's go back to our code here. I'm just going to, let's see. Okay, so let's add an option so that we can return a formatted date. Okay. And that is still simple, but it gives us a way to play around with a little bit more of the features. One of the things I always do when I'm doing formats, because I use the name of that option often enough, I don't want to risk typos. I always set up a constant for it. So I'm going to type in private const string flag This is my way of doing things. And then the name of the option that I'm going to define, and it's going to be format. So if I have other flags, I'd be flag underscore whatever the name of the option is. Next up, I also, technically not required, but I set up a private property. So private string, format, get set. All right. So this is good. This is going to handle our format option. Format is going to store that value for us. We're going to set it up in the init, and then we are going to access it in the run function here. So after our base.initialize, we are going to set up our format flag. First of all, we need to check and make sure that it is there. So one of the nice helper functions that the base class gives us is this right here, has flag. So if the flag exists, we're going to read it, and that's what it tells us here. And it's another reason I'm going to use the string constant here. So if the flag is there, we are going to do something, and we're going to assign our property to, we're using another helper function of the base class here, just called flag. All you have to do is pass in the name of the flag that you're expecting, and then you can optionally pass in a default value that will come back if it couldn't find it, or if there's an empty value there. So it's possible that someone can type in format but not actually give you a value for that flag. So in those cases, it would bring back F. Of course, if there is no flag, we can set a default. So that's what we're doing down here. We're just going to set the format property to F again. F is .NET code to give us a fully formatted date, system date and time. So you could also put in like MMM, day, DD, YYY, that kind of thing for formatting your dates too. This is just one of the short dates. We don't have to change anything, and it's valid because we're setting up a default if the flag isn't there. The only thing we have to do now is just change this to use our format, and that's pretty simple. We just type in format there, and that should take care of it. So I'm going to build it, go over to my batch file, copy it over, and then we'll see if it worked. Oh, the nice thing about prompt is you can up arrow to get your last commands. You can cycle through. So I'll hit enter there. We'll wait for it to load again.
Kelly, that last line of your outputs where you obviously put in your date time, spit out now with format. If you had multiple lines of things that you wanted it to return, do you have to join or concatenate or something those together, or you would have multiple outputs one after another spit out by this?
Well, the way that command works is that there's one input and one output. That's it. Eventually, we would like to do piping on this, so that's another reason we're going to keep it this way. So when prompt gets back whatever you're outputting, it could send it on to the next command. So one input, one output. Now you can create an extra long string. You can pass back additional information, which we will show you here in just a second. You can also pass back an HTML string too by setting an option. So
okay. All right.
You want to go kind of easy on that because we want to kind of maintain the efficiency of a terminal.
The prompt. Yeah, you want it to be as sparse as possible. Definitely follow.
So how would you pass a value to it to get it to format differently than the default that you set up?
Yeah, so
like with perennial.
Yeah, let's see your example here.
Okay, so SF, get time. And again, I wouldn't have to use the SF dot if this was the only command. And then we just pass in -- format. That's the name of our option. So all options in prompt, they start with -- and then after that, we just type in whatever we want. I can do year, -- month, -- day, and strip off the time. And there you go.
Sweet.
So that's very simple, very easy. Now there are some cases where if you have some kind of funky value that you're passing in to your command, you can also do this. You can enclose it in
Encapsulation.
What are they called? They're called double quotes. There we go.
You left a couple of letters off the format part.
Thank you.
Where it says,
Notice how it didn't break, though.
oh, right.
It just gave you the false.
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
interesting.
That's cool. Like a variable in the command for form.
Yeah. So there we go. Everybody with me?
Yeah.
Questions? It's a stage. Any questions?
Got one.
Grant has one. What do you got, Grant?
If you type in, let's say, a list of show me all users and you got 30,000 people on your site, would it pump the whole thing out? Or do you have something in there to relieve the process so other things get done?
Right now, it'd pump all 30,000. Now, presumably, if you had 30,000 users, you would not want to do that. You would do. So let's take a look this and give you an example of the help file here. So we're going to type in help list-users, and here's a list of the actual help. You'll see that users has an awful lot of options. So you can type in just like a wildcard search token for username or emails, or users by a particular role. So you can start to reduce that. As we get closer to a full release, we're going to need to deal with some sort of paging, but that's not in this release at this stage. But yeah, 30,000 would be quite a, although it'd be a lot faster displaying those 30,000 in prompt than it would be on a web page.
Or perhaps if you don't specify something, it gets a top 200 or top 1,000 and then has a response that says, do you want to continue or do you want to get more or something like that?
Yeah. The beauty is that if you don't like what's in prompt, you can just override it. You can write your own control to list, the top 100, set up your own set of paging, type of paging. We will get to paging, but the beauty is that you can just, you don't like it, write your own. Whatever works for you in your particular situation.
No, it looks great. I was just curious if there was something to prevent stupidity.
No, the thing is that a command line is powerful and it requires responsibility. You can do things in a command line that you can't normally do. And so that's why this is only available to hosts and admins, and certain things are only available to hosts. And we have that kind of a checking built in. And if you're going to write your own commands, you need to be aware of that. You need to be doing your own checking between admin and host to make sure that people who shouldn't be aren't actually doing stuff or executing the wrong commands.
Kelly, unless you had another thing you were going to go into next, I have a question about data and connecting to non-DNN data that still might be present inside of the DNN instance. It might be there inside of database tables. What's the structure for referencing and connecting to that data and then processing? Is that different than what we've seen so far?
No, I mean, you have complete freedom here. If you want to, access a MongoDB database, if you have the driver installed, use it because you're just writing .NET code here. If you need to access, we're not providing any particular. You have access to the DNN API, obviously, so you can call DNN database and their functions, and we encourage you to use the API rather than roll your own when you can, of course, like any module developer would do.
That's where I was going. Is there already a setup structure that's encouraged for it, or is it a build your own wild west?
Both. We don't have any hard and fast rules. If, again, you should use the API. That's going to help protect you as DNN evolves. But there's nothing limiting you to what you can do. It's just .NET code. Just like any module developer, they can do anything. So the nice thing is that especially if you're running this internally in an enterprise, you have your own special processes you want to run. You can just write this. And the great thing is that IT people don't have to know how to design an interface. They can just simply write something that's going to spit stuff out to the command line, or they could kick off processes that will run reports or anything else. Okay, I'm gonna move on.
All right.
All right, next up, let's take a look at, what am I doing here? Oh, yeah, so now let's just, to show you another area that you're gonna have to work with is surfacing errors and telling prompt whether or not the command they typed in was actually valid. So as I said, we have validation message here, and we have the is valid function here. Now, the easiest way to deal with this is, as boilerplate, really, use copy and paste this. If you follow this pattern, just return validation message, oops, string. There. So if the validation message is empty or it's null, then you know that there weren't any errors. So just return that. If it's empty, return true. If it's not empty, return false. And you can just essentially leave it like that. Now, it's always going to return true right now because we're not actually doing anything with the validation message. So let's do this. What I always do is you could theoretically do this. You can return other errors in the run command, but if you want to take advantage of this is valid function, you're going to have to do your validation, and you should in the init method. So what I always do is I think I need to import system.txt. All right, so I'm just going to create a string builder. Must be errors. Okay. So this is going to, and if you're doing lots of validation, string builder is nice because you can just append your errors to it, and it's nice and fast. So we're just going to do this for the sake of argument. We're not going to have a default value if you don't specify the option. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to say sp errors append format. You must pass in the --0 flag. It's always nice to be as helpful to your user as possible. And one of the reasons that I'm doing this is append format is so I can use this constant again. I don't have to worry about misspelling anything. I just pass it in this way, and it's going to pop out the right message for me. Let's give this a shot.
Will this work? Because he made a default for his format. So it
actually,
he's going to test whether there is one in the argument.
So yeah, I hear what you're saying. This is a contrived example. So yeah, if I was going to test for the actual value, then yeah. What I'm actually testing here, just so I can show you an error message, is whether or not you passed in the option. It doesn't care what the value is, or even if you passed a value. As long as you pass in an option, you're good. If not, then not. So sf.getTime, and nothing after that. Of course, we have to wait for it to reload. Okay, that worked perfectly.
Oh, okay. That was my question. I turned to Rutt a moment ago and I said, but you set a default. Didn't you have to remove the default?
Let's see. Well, I'm saying if it has the flag, and I do this, if it, oh, I made a mistake. I added the error message to the SP error string builder, but I didn't actually assign it to the validation message. Does that make sense? So what I was doing is I was setting up the validation message, and
yeah.
Also said it has flag.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, so that's right. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
okay. Okay, validation message actually needs to be privately settable, so that I can set that in here. So I'm just setting the validation message to the errors. That way, the isValid function is actually going to return the right value. This is coding error.
Okay.
So I don't think I built it.
Yes, so there's something in the validation message variable to determine whether to return an error.
And again, if I'm not explaining myself well, let me know. Okay, so let's let this go. There we go.
Could you explain everything that you've done for the last 15 minutes?
Nah.
You have a recording.
David has to step out. All right.
Okay. Yeah, you can have everything I have there, David. You can use it. So, actually, I'll just record this, and you can just play it back for your session at DNN Connect.
Well,
There you go.
Okay, so there we go. That's really the basics. It's kind of nice. Doesn't do a whole heck of a lot though. But you know, it's the basics. So let's do something a little bit better. All we've done right now is just pass back text. And am I running along? Are we good? How much time do I got?
we're in good shape. We're in good shape.
Okay. All right. So we've done this. We're just passing back text, but you saw what I did, like list users. There's a lot of data there, and it's all formatted. Or if I do get user with an ID of 10, it gives me that nice detail view. How do you do that? Well, let's
go to that.
figure that out. So we've done get time, which made me think, really, instead of get time, what about get time? So that got me to thinking, how about we do a list of herbs that are mentioned in songs. That's an interesting one. We all know Scarborough Fair, right? But there, believe it or not, there are other ones. There's actually a place where you can find this information out. Google it, people. So
Reddit,
let's just call this list herbs. One thing I do want to point out, that when you are creating your commands, you really should, the best practice is to follow the syntax and the way that the language has been created already for prompt. There is a help topic in prompt. There are several that you can refer to. One goes into depth explaining how the language is set up. That way, when people are coming to your command from elsewhere, they'll be able to quickly understand how your commands work. It's not a requirement, it's a best practice though.
Kelly, I've got a question about, you're mentioning help. When it comes to extending and writing your own commands, there's a certain directory that all the help files currently live in. How does an extension help get handled? Is there a mechanism for doing so?
There is. We've actually built out the architecture for that. There isn't a good way yet for you to deploy that help into the right place, but there's a place for your help. So again, we're version 0.3. It's an alpha stage still, especially as we start to integrate with DNN Corp and the core. Some of that stuff is going to be fleshed out. So we will have a place for it.
Even with it like it is today, for instance, do you recommend us actually doing an installer to install the DLL and place the HTML in place, or do you think there'll be a better mechanism later for handling that?
Probably we're going to deal with a standard module install. So you'll be able to place things wherever you need to as part of that install. And we have a place for it. You'll just need to make sure you put it there.
In theory, we create a package now with the DLL and the HTML for the help, as long as we know where it needs to go, right?
Yes, and of course, if you're doing this internally, you can just manually copy it over too.
Right. There's a certain help directory within the prompt structure to help, obviously.
Yes. Okay, so what we're doing here is I'm just creating a model, because when this is all web API based, and so with that model, I'm going to copy it from my example here. This model is just it's modeling an herb, and so let's create our class for our model. That is going to be herb model. Let's see, yes. Paste that in. And so what we have is basically the name of the herb, the fancy scientific name of the herb, a short description of the herb, and a string array of songs that mention that herb. And we just set it up here. It's real basic, and I'm just going to leave it at that. We'll go back to our list of herbs that I've copied in. I'll just point out some of the things that we've done. First of all, I'm pulling in my my models so that I can get access to that herb model. I've added my decorator. I've decorated my class, my list herbs class, with the console command attribute, and I have my short description here. Again, there are no options here, so I don't have to specify that. The name of the class is list herbs. It's inheriting from console command base, and it's implementing iConsole command. We have our validation message. We have our init function, and this is set up much the way we did before. It's not validated anything, so we're not worried about that. But it's kind of boilerplate for me. And same thing here for is valid. All of the fun happens in run. I didn't want to deal with accessing the database, so I'm just creating a list here. Best way to approach multiple items that you want to return is to create a list of type, a generic list. And so I'm creating a list of herb models called herbs. And then I'm just adding new herb models to it here. So I'm adding 4 herbs. I'm assuming you're following me there.
Yep.
All right, now we can see how more flexible the console result model is. Before, we were just returning text, but you see now we can still return text, and we can actually display the count of records, so we can give a nice informational display. The nice thing is that this text actually will display below the table or below the detail, so it will look nice to the end user. All that's handled by prompt by default. Then we're going to pass in a data object. In this case, all we need, I call it data object generically, but there's actually a data field on this object. And all we're doing is just pass it in the herbs list. That's it. Nothing really special, just a list passed as part of the response. So let's build this and see what happens. Okay, copied it. Just copy it over. And let's clear the screen. And what do I call it? List herbs. Now there is no other list herbs. Actually, there is, but that's right. I probably should namespace this. Instead of KF, I'm going to make it SF.
I'm fully expecting list herbs to make it into the DNN core version, so that it'll be an Easter egg that no one else will know is there except for us who were in this session. So we'll be able to show it off to friends, right?
Yes. Well, I figured in honor of 420, I would do herbs. Oh, that was another reason behind it.
I didn't realize the connection there. That is today. All right. All right. That's the police call for.
Actually, basically national cannabis. You know, that's.
How would you know
that?
that?
Was theories of what it was.
That's just what I've heard, of course.
A number of those is commonly used to represent marijuana-related things.
So we're just filled with tidbits of information.
Sorry, we're having a in here. And all right, so run the thing. What we got?
A holiday in Colorado.
We said we were Southern fried. We didn't say we were Southern baked.
Hey, hey. There we go. So, look at that. I didn't do squat except define a model and add objects to a list, and I just pass the list back. I don't have to deal with laying anything out. You notice it's got a nice scientific name, description. It's all laid out wonderfully for me. That's it. That's all you have to do. Pretty cool, I think. Very easy. Next, because I know you want more. Let's just say that this is just too much of a display for us. You know, songs is just too much information. You see how it's all wrapping around? So let's make a shorter amount of data on this. This will show you another example of what this console result model can do.
You know, talking about making it shorter though, all of this is still inside of the persona bar. So there's a natural limit to how much space you want to fill up with what you're sticking out in prompt, right?
Exactly.
Care to be taken to not fill up volumes of either records or width of data that's being spit out, right?
Well, primarily width. The thing is that this display will, or at least it used to be able to scroll. It doesn't do that anymore. So yeah, you want to maintain. It's gonna wrap, but you want to maintain. Be nice to your users and restrict some of the data that you're displaying in a list view like this. Let them go to a detailed view, which is why we have it all set up that way. And one of the tools that we have to help you kind of without having to create a brand new model for list items and a separate model for detail items, we have something called a field order. And with this is a string array, very simple to set up. And for this, you just simply pass in the order and the fields that you want to display. So you'll see we have, let's take a look at the model again. We have these fields. We have name, scientific name, description, and songs. All of those are going to be displayed by default by prompt in a list view. So let's get rid of the, or let's actually move the scientific name to the front. You'll see right now name is first because that's what was defined first in our model. And that's the default order for fields is how it's defined in the model. So let's just say we want the scientific name to be first and the name to be second. And we want to get rid of the songs column. We'll display that on a detail view. How do we do that? We do this with the field order. It does double duty. So all we have to do is specify which fields we want to display. So we'll just leave off the songs field and the order in which we want to display those fields. So we will start with scientific name. Then name, and then description. Just using the names of those fields. We'll build it, copy it over, and now let's do the same thing. I'll just up arrow and let the site reload. I do want to make you aware that this is only because the site's reloading. It's not because prompt is slow. But you'll see that we have scientific name first, name second, and description is third, and there is no songs column. So that's how you can handle your display, what you want to display in the order you want to display it in. I talked earlier about if you have even more information, you want to display a detail view, like the list users versus the get user command that's built into prompt. How do we do that? The nice thing is that we don't really have to make many changes. Again, prompt does all this stuff for you, making it as simple as possible for you just to do your code and get it done. So let me pull up that code. That is this one. Okay, now this is going to be a little bit different because I'm doing it all in the same list list herb command. I'm going to, rather than have just like a get-herb command, because we don't have a lot of time, I'm going to do this all here. So I'm going to do a little checking of the flag, and I'm going to do a little checking to see how much of a count, or what the count is, how many herbs were returned. So first of all, I also have to set up my property. As you recall, that involves a constant, and it involves a private property. All right, that is outside of the class, doesn't belong there. So just pop it in there. We got our constant for our option, which is name, and we've got the actual property we're going to use to store it in. We're not going to deal with that in the init function. We're just going to, and again, you want to do some validation, of course, but we're going to put all this stuff in the run function. And this is what we've got. First of all, we're going to determine if they've actually passed in a name for the herb, meaning they're searching for a particular herb. And no, I don't have marijuana here on my list. So if it does have that option, if it does have that flag, then we're going to pull that into our search term variable here, and we're going to default to 0 or to an empty string if they didn't pass it in. Right now, we're going to assume that they're going to pass it in. From that, we're just going to use the find method of the list command, and this is just going to pass in for each item in the list. The herb is going to be X, the herb object is going to be X. We're going to look for the name and see if it contains a search term. And then we're going to create a new list for our results right here. And we're going to add that result because find will return the first thing that it finds. So we're just going to add that to the results list. Notice I'm not returning a single object. Always, 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 unless you're doing just text. But if you're returning data, always return a list. Even if you're doing like get user and you know you're going to return one thing, put it in a list. That's what prompt is expecting. And so that's what we're doing here. Now, if there's only one item in the list, prompt is going to automatically detect that and it's going to display it as a detail view. If there's more than one item, it's going to display it as a table view. So it does some of that heavy lifting for you, but just everything, spit it out as a list. And so we've added there, and here's our console result model. We're not actually displaying, actually, let's go ahead and do that. That would be this right here. No, I'm not going to do that because we're only going to return 1, and we know that we're returning 1. This way I don't have to do if count equals 1, then do one herb found instead of herbs. If anybody's done the plural versus singular thing in their programming. All right, so did I build it? I don't think so. Yep, I did.
If you build it, they will come.
Well, you guys are here. Don't know why, but you're here. Okay, so let's try this out again. First of all, I'm just going to get this thing started again, and I'm going to sf.list herbs. So we can see what's there. Notice this is the same command. I'm not passing anything to it, so it's going to give me what we had before.
Right.
Now, if I want to actually search for, let's say, SF list herbs name is my option, and I type in parsley. There it is. It's returning one record, so it's returning the detail display for us. Now we could pretty this up some more if we wanted to, but that gives you the basics of how things work.
Yeah, I would have asked the same question that Clint did, that parsley didn't have to be in quotes.
Yeah, it's one way.
Okay. If you have spaces and you got to go.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So anything that might interfere with prompt's parsing of the value. So if there are double dashes, if there are spaces, things like that, that you want to put it in quotes. Other than that, if it's standard, you don't have to put it in quotes. Again, it's another way to save you a couple of keystrokes. And prompt is really built on being as prompt as possible and as efficient as possible. So it tries to take shortcuts whenever it can. And so that is it. I think it does a great job not only in usability, but I think it makes it fast and efficient to develop for prompt. You can do whatever you want. Anything that a module can do, you can do as a prompt command. You can kick off external services, third-party services, for instance, from your site, backups, whatever you want to do, reports. It's all available, and you don't have to worry about any of the user interface headache. You just simply get your job done and let prompt take care of the user interface. That's it.
I was going to ask a question before you wrapped up too far. With the responses that come back with what you are displaying, are there any things you have to watch out for, or anything that's going to break prompt's response ability to put out an end response?
I will never say never. Thus far, it's been very strong. It's designed to kind of ignore things. There's one other thing that you can do, and again, this is good coding, more so than a prompt-specific thing. But again, prompt not only has a console result model, the other thing you can do is you can return a new console result. What is it? Console.
Yeah, an error.
Results,
Catch, try.
Error. Something or other. Why is it not finishing for me? Yes, I've forgotten what my own code does. Console error result model. There it is. And you can pass in a message to that right here. So okay. So that's going to, we'll just comment this other stuff out. So again, you do your validation in your init, and that way prompt can tell the user that they have screwed up their syntax, etc. But if you run into an error in the actual processing of the function, then you would use a console result model. Those are the two things you can return. And so just to show you that works, I will type in sf.list herbs. Hopefully it'll be very, very cold. Yeah, very nasty, mean.
All right.
Mean command, but there you go. So there you can return whatever you want. Again, this is all meant for the end user. So you're not passing back like 500 responses. You want to trap it as much as you can. But in my development, I've had 500 responses, and if there's if your session times out, it's going to display that for you in red. It's not going to crash. It's going to basically say, the service wasn't authenticated.
Well, Clint, do we have any questions that came through online? I know we kind of all stopped and asked questions as we were going through.
Yeah, there were none in the chat.
Yeah, I imagine everybody's taken off. It's getting kind of late.
We had one person who did have to step out. I think, too, that this is a lot to digest or think about in video format and watching, and getting your hands on it is the next thing that people would want to do. So
let me get you that.
The question, they get hands on there.
Yeah.
So what kind of put it in perspective too. Think about it if you're a module developer, DNN module, where you have a custom module or something like that. You could utilize prompt to integrate your module to do things and so forth from the command line. So, to clear something out or reset database, whatever it is, whether it's to help you in your development efforts for the module or if it's for your customers, so you're a great use for doing these kind of extensions.
Right, that's the other thing. I think there'll be a whole ecosystem that can build up around this. But if you have an existing module, it makes it very easy to make it accessible from a command line, like David was pointing out. I have in the chat room, I pasted the link to the repo for the code for this. There are basically 7 tags. There's the branch of the master that has the most recent one, and then you can step through each of the different tags. They go in order, and there's a little description about what each one does. So you can kind of step through in the similar way that we did in this session.
No, the important question is, does it have get herbs, or is it just get time? No. He's got a sub.
Yellow first.
The herbs. All right. Okay.
So this is the GitHub repository.
Yeah.
And again, it's in the chat room if you want to post it in the show notes later on. Again, let me go back real quick because it's got some of the other information on there. Finish up my stuff here. So you'll remember this from last time. This is the actual prompt GitHub repository right now. It's, again, because we wanted it to be incorporated into the DNN core, it's actually listed under DNN core, even though it's a fork right now of DNN core. But so just follow this the shortener, the xmp.cc/prompt GitHub. That should take you there. I want you to, as you're using prompt, submit your bug reports, pull requests, test the security, because that's one of the reasons I made this open source, is I want to make sure it's secure. I think it's pretty solid, but security it's wide open, and the more people can test it, the better. And of course, submit suggestions that you have for prompt as well.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have any questions, this is how you can contact me. Twitter @DNNDev, email kford@dnndev.com. My GitHub is DNNDev. The wiki, which has wonderful information, that was created by our very own Clint. Thank you, Clint. That can be found here at the shortened URL. And a shout out to all the other prompt contributors, Peter Donker, Mr. Poindexter, Clint, Chris Hammond, and Brian Dukes have also contributed in their ideas. So great team focusing around this. We're going to be in core. Love it. And if you have any questions, just let me know.
All right. Thank you very much, Kelly.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations for getting that in there.
Yeah. So just as you mentioned this coming into core, roadmap, I guess, of what you're doing in the next couple of weeks regarding things. What's your next step or your next things you're working on for prompt?
Well, one of the final commands that I'm working on, and again, most of the commands in prompt are there. They have kind of the most necessary options with them. They don't necessarily have every option. One of the things I still have to build out is the new portal command. But next week we have scheduled essentially a real kickoff meeting with DNN Corp, with the principals involved, and go from there. Again, the ETA, they're hoping for a DNN 9.2 integration, but you never know how these things are going to go. So I don't necessarily get your hopes up, but it's kind of a rough goal for right now.
Kelly, are you going to be pulling any stats like in the background so that you can get an idea for the usage of it?
I don't have anything right now. I haven't built that out. It would be nice to know. I'm not sure how that's going to fit with the privacy policies in DNN Core.
Yeah.
So that may or may not happen.
They had that little checkbox like, can we, monitor whatever. But I mean, I just think it would be interesting to know, like if you, well, this would be different, but if you typed in your 1,000th command, it said, hey, that was your 1,000th command. But that's to the user. But I'm talking on the back end, so you could see like, hey, these are my power users or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. It remains to be seen. That would be great to have in it. Realistically, we'll have to see. Again, very early stages here. A lot of discussions to go on before we really know. And again, we have to merge this with, DNN Corp's corporate customers and every existing customer that signed their terms of service and privacy policies. So we'll see how it goes.
So if we do feel like participating and jumping in, you've obviously got a crew of a collection of big names participating there. But in GitHub, if we do pull requests and we add some things, you're reviewing those and bringing them back in?
Absolutely.
All right.
Now again, I want everything to come in to that repo, and we'll analyze it. We want to keep the core as small and functional as possible, and let everybody else extend it however they need to. But yeah, pull requests are great. Security reports, of course, we want anything. Ideas are most welcome.
All right. So Clint, did we have any chiming in from the chat line? I normally don't see this when we're running.
No, nothing.
All right.
Being quiet.
Hey, Kelly, you might want to check your pull requests out there.
That's kind of what I was asking. I feel like we're going to have some new pull requests here from Southern Brad here shortly.
That's going to be great. Mm-hmm. We'll see. We'll see. I don't want to check it right now.
Well, Kelly, thanks so much for coming on. I'm sure that we've said it multiple times, and you've heard it from folks in the community. Thank you for inventing something here that is pretty exciting and adds a new dimension to things that we can do inside of DNN to make it more powerful, more efficient, to make things in general more extensible. So thank you again for being awesome, which I'm sure you've heard a bunch from folks in the community, but we need to say thank you again, and thank you for spending your time here with us tonight.
My pleasure. Thanks.
David, if you want to bring back the presenter either to your screen or to mine, we'll kind of bring up sponsors, and we'll start to close out here for the evening. So again, thank you, Eleanor. I don't know if you're still on for joining us earlier. We're all going to be spending time checking out the documentation center more. We're going to be playing around with prompt and spending our time there some more. But we do have our sponsors here, both available for those of us who are here and those that are online still with us for a couple of different giveaways and things that we have. We might have jumped the gun. We might not have tickets ready yet.
Everybody gets a sticker.
Let's do it quick. Come up with a Twitter contest here real quick, and then we'll randomly choose from anybody.
Bear with us a second, folks. We're going to check and see what we can do for how we decide to do this. Do we want to pause until next session? Because we do have JetBrains. JetBrains graciously gives us a license to, which is a pretty fantastic license if you haven't won it or seen what we have here. But it's a full license copy of any one of their products. And it's not a trial. It's not a trimmed down version. It's the full thing. So
actually,
if you know,
it's pretty easy unless everybody's dropped off. And all of us, I think, have won that.
JetBrains.
Have you won?
Yeah.
Have you won?
but so we have a JetBrains, but then we have our new sponsor, Get Kraken. What we might do here is pull them up on for next session. But if Adderson's still on and hasn't won,
he's recording our session. So
all right, then we might have a winner right there, just by de facto winner there.
Way to go, Addison.
Yay, Addison. All
right. For anybody else who is still on, our next meeting is going to be in May. I believe that is May the 18th, third Thursday of the month, 6:30. We should be back in our Microsoft location for that meeting. And thank you very much to everybody who joined us, and we will see you online soon.